Alright guys, today we are going to be doing a full recap of UFC Qatar, and we're going to go through every single fight on the card, and honestly, this event turned out way better than most people expected, I think. We had some huge moments, some crazy finishes, some strong prospect performances, and a couple of fights that really shook up their division. So let's get right into it and break down what happened this weekend. And starting off with the first fight of the night, we had Merrick versus Denzel Freeman. And honestly, this was not the strongest way to open the card. Both guys had their moments here and there. Merrick came out a little bit aggressive early, like he always does. He was trying to force exchanges and looked like he was looking for something big. But Freeman stayed composed and avoided getting caught in the chaos. There were a couple of small swings of momentum where Merrick looked like he might push forward and make it interesting. But for the most part, Freeman was just like a step ahead. He controlled the tempo. He picked his shots a little cleaner, and he did a good job slowing the fight down anytime Merrick tried to make it wild. And Freeman's jab and straight shots just landed more often. And defensively, he did stay aware enough to avoid getting dragged into the explosive scrambles that usually give Merrick success. And honestly, neither fighter was able to create any huge moments or serious danger. And that made the fight feel a little bit flat compared to what fans expected for this matchup. But when you look at it round by round, you could clearly see that Freeman was doing the more consistent work. He was staying disciplined. He managed the distance better and capitalized on the small openings that Merrick was giving him. And that composure is what won him the decision. Even if the fight wasn't like the most entertaining, not the most electric start to the card, Freeman did exactly what he needed to do to get the win, but it was a little bit of like a stale fight. And next up, we had a fight between Aliev and Rock. And honestly, this was a great performance from Aliev. From the very start of the fight, you could see he was like locked in. He was landing clean. He was landing the cleaner, sharper shots, and really started to piece Rock up on the feet. And people usually expect Aliev to rely more on the wrestling, but in this fight, his striking looked the best it's ever been. And defensively, he was super disciplined. He did have pretty good head movement. He had good reactions. He was stuffing takedowns from Rock. He kept his guard tight and didn't really give Rock many clean looks. And he also was mixing in some takedowns himself just to keep Rock guessing of his next move. And every time the fight did hit the mat, Nurullo Aliev did stay in control. He stayed patient, and he never really gave Rock any opportunity to build momentum. And the only real danger just came late in the third round when Rock managed to get onto Mount. Just for like a second, it looked like the momentum might have shifted, but Aliev stayed calm. He didn't really panic at all. He had really good hit movement and just escaped with ease within like 30 seconds. And that moment just showed how composed and experienced he is becoming as a fighter such early in his career. And overall, this was a complete, well-rounding showing from Aliev. He won the striking, won the grappling exchanges. He managed the pace of the fight and just never looked out of control. This was just a clean, dominant win over Shamrock. And for the Ismail and Loader fight, um, this one ended quick. Loader came in looking uncomfortable in the feet and did not go for a takedown attempt. And he stayed striking with Ismail, and that was clearly a big mistake. Ismail landed one nice overhand, and Loader pretty much just went to sleep. And yeah, he was just out cold. It was just super fast. That's a great win for Nurdiev after not the best performance in his last fight. So this was a good round one knockout for Ismail Nardiev. Not much to say on this fight with how quick it ended. And next up, we had Alexandre Topuria versus Bekzat Almakhan. And this was one of the matchups I was really looking forward to on the card. And it was a really good fight. Early in round one, Backsat was looking sharp, fast, and confident in the striking, and he was landing really heavy calf kicks that were dropping to Poria, and he was doing a great job of managing distance, and his speed was clearly giving Alexandre some problems in the first round. But near the end of the first round, there's like a momentum shift a little bit. Alexandre started finding his timing a little bit, started finding his range, and he was landing some heavy shots. And then he secured a takedown at the end of that round, which that was like the main thing that felt like a momentum swing. And from that point on, you could tell the fight was slowly turning into Alexandre's favor. And as the fight went on, Alexandre's power started to show. He was landing big shots on Almacan, and you could see it wearing on big Almacan's face. And by the later rounds, Alexandre was clearly the one controlling the exchanges. He was moving forward the whole fight, and he was landing heavy shots. At one point, it was almost like he dropped him a little bit. I'm not sure if they scored it as a knockdown, but he landed some heavy shots. And in the end, it was a solid, well-earned decision win for Alexandre, and it was showing his ability to adjust mid-fight, take momentum back, and just apply steady pressure against a very talented prospect. And next up, we're the fight between Yakyahebv and Sequeira. And this was just an absolute perfect UFC debut from Yakyahebv. He came out with heavy pressure right away and set the tone instantly. He landed a flush head kick like 10 seconds into the fight that dropped Sequeira early, and Sequeira managed to get back up to his feet, and then Yakyahebv just picked him up, slammed him down, and choked him out. And that is pretty much it. That's like the perfect debut. And this Yakyahebv guy is going to be a big problem in the UFC. And I'm not sure if we're going to see Sequeira in the UFC again, since I think he's like 0-4. But other than that, great performance by Yakyahebv. Next up, we're the fight between Asu Almabayev and Alex Perez. In the first round, Asu landed a pretty nice spinning wheel kick that landed on the guard of Perez. It didn't do much, but it definitely landed a little bit nicer than a block shot. And in the first round, Perez was coming out aggressive. He was marching forward and just like rushing in, throwing these wild left and right hooks, and they weren't really landing that much, but he was pushing at pace. But Asu was staying composed and just picking his shots. And then in the first round, he timed a beautiful takedown. And once it hit the mat, he just kind of cruised and got some controlled time for the first round. And there wasn't much going on. And then in the second round, not a ton happened either. Asu landed a heavy spinning kick to Perez's liver, which you could tell he did not like. And then he landed a takedown of his own, Perez, and kind of dropped control time for a little bit. Not much really happened. And then in round three, Asu went right back to the spinning wheel kick, and this to the head, and this one landed a little bit cleaner than the one in the first round, and you could see that Perez was a little bit rocked, and that forced him to shoot a takedown. And then right when he shot a takedown, Asu snatched up like a very nice guillotine, and that was the end of the fight. Perez had to tap. It was a really nice guillotine actually. So that was a good finish for Asu Almabayev. And next up, we're the fight between Sagid and Dalby. And honestly, this wasn't the most exciting fight of the night. Round one started with almost no real action. Dalby was clinching Sagid against the fence for long stretches, and the ref even had to step in to separate them. Dalby was throwing quite a bit of kicks at range in round one, but nothing really major landed. Then in the final minute, Sagid finally got something going. He managed to get mount, but Dalby did do well getting back to his feet before the round ended. And then round two, Sagid came out with a quick takedown, but again, Dalby was able to stand up. There was some fence holding, a little bit of scrambling, and Saget eventually reversed one of Dolby's takedown attempts and took his back, and he started controlling the position for a bit. But in the last minute of that round, Dolby flipped the script and he got into full guard, again out of back position, and he landed some good ground and pound. And then round three was pretty much just Dolby walking forward the entire time, holding him against the fence. Nothing really happened. It was more of a lot of pressure and not a lot of damage from either guy. It was a close, low action fight overall, and the judges gave it to Dolby by split decision. And this was just not the most memorable matchup on the card. And then we had a fight between Luke Riley and Bogdan Grad. And I am a big fan of Bogdan Grad since the Contender Series. And the first round was all Bogdan Grad. He got the early takedowns. He worked from top position. He landed some solid ground and pound at the end of the first round. And then the second round came, and then Luke Riley, like 10 seconds in, timed perfect left hook that just spun Grad's head around and dropped him pretty bad. And then Luke just jumped on him with some ground and pound, and the ref had to call the fight. It was hard to see because I'm a Bogdan Grad fan, but this was a great comeback knockout for Luke Riley. So we'll see how his UFC career pans out. And I think he's going to need to work on his takedown defense a little bit. But that was a solid KO win, and I hope we get to see Bogdan Grad again because I'm a fan of him. And then our next fight was between Tagir Ulanbekov and Kyoji Hiraguchi. And Tagir did not look good in this fight at all. He was getting pieced up on the feet. Kyoji was landing heavy calf kicks where Tagir was slow to get up. In between rounds, he was sitting on the floor. And he just looked like beat up. Like he knew he lost the fight before it was already over. And then in the third round, Kyoji landed a clean head kick that really rocked Tagir. And the fight got to the mat. And then Kyoji ended up taking Tagir's back and it ended up choking him out, which was quite surprising, honestly. But yeah, this was one of Tagir's worst performances. So I'm not sure what's next for him, but this was a great comeback win for Kyoji. And then next up, we had Gaziv versus Cortez Acosta. And this one was pretty quick. Gaziev actually came out quite aggressive, pushing forward and backing Waldo towards the fence and swinging. But Waldo stayed calm, and he timed like a perfect right hand counter that clearly rocked Gaziev. And then Gaziev was slowing down, starting to try to recover, but shortly after Waldo landed another massive shot that just completely dropped him, and the ref just stepped in instantly because he was like out. And this was actually a huge win for Waldo, especially considering he fought like a couple weeks ago and won by knockout, and then stepped in for Spivak just on like 2 days' notice and just delivered another round one knockout. So this was a really impressive performance by Cortez Acosta, and this is a really good win for him. So we'll see what's next for him. And then we had a fight between Orolbai and Jack Hermanson, and the whole fight, Orolbai was pressuring Hermanson from like the very start, keeping him backed up against the fence and forcing Jack to react like the whole time. And Hermanson wasn't really able to get his rhythm going, and you could tell that the pressure from Orolbai was really bothering him. And then Orolbai had him backed against the fence, and then landed a nasty right hand that like grazed the side of Jack's head and just shut the lights off instantly. Like it was pretty brutal, honestly, and it was really clean though. And for Hermanson, like this is tough. He's taken a lot of damage in his last two fights. And I don't think this weight class is for him at all. And I think he needs to take a break, take a couple months off, and move back up to middleweight because these back-to-back knockouts are adding up. But for Orolbai, this was a massive win. And then we had a fight between Menefield and Uzdemir. And this one was quick. Right from the start, Menefield was just getting backed up against the fence and never really found space to open up at all. Ozdemir just kept walking him down, staying patient, and you could tell he was reading Menefield's reactions. Then, when he had him backed against the fence, Ozdemir slipped in a perfect knee up the middle that rocked Menefield pretty bad. Menefield stumbled back to the cage, and Ozdemir just instantly unloaded with heavy shots. Menefield could not defend himself, and he ended up just falling to the ground. The ref stepped in, and that was pretty much it. And this is a huge round one knockout for Ozdemir. And this is a really nice comeback win that's going to put him right back in the mix with the top 10 at light heavyweight. So we'll see what is next for him. And then we had the fight between Belal Muhammad and Ian Garry. And Ian Garry won this fight by decision after controlling most of the fight with his striking, his distance management, and takedown defense that was on display. Early in the first round, Garry did poke Belal in the eye, and I think it caused the cut. I can't remember too well, but the fight continued with no point deduction. And from there, Garry just stayed composed and kept the fight at his range he wanted, landing clean jabs, straight shots, and really nice leg kicks. Belal was pressuring forward throughout the fight and repeatedly tried to wrestle, but Garry defended, I think, every single takedown. I think Belal went 0 for 7 on his takedowns, and he forced the exchanges to stay on the feet. And just as the fight went on, Garry's accuracy and movement just made the difference. He consistently landed the better shots while avoiding Belal's offense. And by the end, it was a clear Garry controlled the striking and shut down Belal's grappling. And this just earned him a clear decision win. So this is a good win for Ian Garry, and we'll see if he gets a title shot soon. And he called out Islam Makhachev in his post-fight win interview, whatever you want to call it. So we'll see what's next. And the main event for UFC Qatar was Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker. And Arman just put on an absolutely dominant performance against Hooker. He controlled every part of the fight from start to finish. On the feet, Arman was landing the bigger, cleaner shots. He was mixing in sharp combinations with powerful counters that kept Hooker guessing. And anytime Arman wanted to take the fight to the ground, he got the takedown with ease. And Hooker tried to go for these guillotines on the way down, but Arman showed really nice defense and would just slip out of them like almost instantly. And so in the second round, Arman's pressure and grappling finally broke through as he passed Hooker's guard onto mount, and he methodically set up a very nice arm triangle choke. And once he locked it in, Hooker had no choice but to tap. And this was a statement win for Arman. It was very dominant, technical, and exactly the performance that everyone wanted to see from him after being sidelined for over a year. So this was a great win for Arman. And that is my UFC Qatar recap. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And be sure to follow my TikTok where I drop all my predictions. I told you guys that Aliev plus Orolbai was a lock. And Yakyahebv under 0.5 rounds hit exactly like I said. So be sure to follow that so you get to see all my predictions.